Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I do when I wake up in the morning is obviously I look through the news, have my coffee, and I also look at the markets, and I even do that during the weekends because we have the crypto market, which I know a lot of people are not a fan of, but we also have like the dollar, and the other currencies around the world, what their value is. And I've been interested in the value of the dollar lately because, as you've all seen, if you follow this, the dollar's value has been going up. And now it seems that in the last week or so, it's starting to come back down a little bit. But what worries me is not the value of the dollar, because we all know that the dollar is being devalued against real goods. The value of the dollar is the value when compared to certain other currencies around the world, right? But the value of the ruble is what I was really surprised at today. And I think that this is something we really need to look at, because eventually the dollar will fail, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you my thoughts, all right? Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional at this kind of stuff, but it's just what I see and what makes sense to me. And it's why I believe that we really have to use this summer to prepare as much as we can. Why? Because you never know what is going to happen. Just like I said, probably last year, I said we need to prepare before winter. And you know what? I think it was a good thing for those people that were prepared before winter for some of those things that went up in price, like fuel and things like that. Right? But I digress on that. But the ruble, ladies and gentlemen, if you all remember that before the sanctions hit, right, before Russia invaded Ukraine and before the sanctions on Russia hit, the ruble was at about 80 something, right? 83, I think, something like that. And then it plummeted to about 160. It almost plummeted by like half. It went down to like 160 rubles to $1. So that it makes sense to you, the more rubles that it takes to buy a dollar, the weaker that the ruble is. So before the invasion, it was at about 80 something. I think it was 83. Don't quote me, but you can look that up. It's easy to look up. And then when we started implementing the sanctions, it went all the way down to like 160 or something like that, which is really bad. That's like a 50% devaluation, like almost overnight, right? And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is at like 55. I was like, oh my goodness, the ruble is just getting stronger. I talked about this briefly yesterday during our live stream, saying that the ruble was getting stronger, that it was stronger now than what it was before the invasion and before we put the sanctions on. But I didn't know that it was that much stronger. I thought that it was like in the 70s, high 70s, just a little bit stronger than 83 or so. But it's at like 55, 54. The implications, ladies and gentlemen, that has, most people, I think, don't understand. So check this out. Russia makes stuff. They make things that they export. They make things, they grow. Obviously, we all know that they grow wheat, right? Because that's what we've been talking about for a while now. They make fertilizer. They have a lot of oil, natural gas. They actually make things that they export. And that gives their ruble strength. And now that they are telling countries, hey, listen, if you want to trade with us, you're going to have to pay us in rubles or in gold. What's that doing? It's making the value of their ruble bigger value or higher value. Why? Because now more rubles are needed in the market in order for countries that want to trade with Russia to buy their stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's making their rubles stronger. So what does that matter to the U.S.? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do we make? What does the United States make? Why do other countries need the U.S. dollar? The only reason that other countries need the U.S. dollar is because of the U.S. military's might, and because the U.S. has control over the SWIFT system, which is the highway that is used for other countries to actually be able to trade with other nations, with other countries, using the dollar. So the U.S. goes out and says, hey, listen, countries, if you guys want to trade internationally, you have to use the dollar. And we're going to control the SWIFT system, which is the vehicle that is used to transfer dollars from nation to nation that are trading. Those are the only two things that the U.S. really has in its favor that still gives value to the dollar, right? And that is that they control the system by which dollars are exchanged internationally, number one. And we supposedly still have a mighty military, and we are willing to be the bullies of the world, to send our militaries to stop those countries that don't want to interact in dollars. However, countries are waking up. Do you really think, ask yourself this question, do you really think that we're going to do anything if China invades Taiwan? Do you really think so? No, we're not going to do anything because we can't do a thing. We cannot do a thing. If tomorrow the dollar went to zero, or if tomorrow the dollar was devalued by 90%, which is very possible if China dumps its treasuries onto the market and makes interest rates skyrocket because there's so many treasuries out there that no one is there to buy them, what's going to happen to the dollar? It's going to devalue like crazy. So what are people going to do? What are other countries going to do? They're going to stop using the dollar altogether. They're going to pay off all of their dollar-denominated loans that they have right now because it's going to be really cheap money. And then they're going to stop using the dollar. They're going to stop holding the dollar because the dollar will have a lot less value. There is nothing that the U.S. will do when China invades Taiwan. And if we do something militarily, let me ask you a question. Where are we going to get the rare earth metals that we need to build our bombs? Where are we going to get all of the materials that we need, that we stop manufacturing here, that we stop mining here? Where are we going to get all of those things that we need in order to build the military might necessary to fight China? And I guarantee you that if we end up fighting China, we'll probably end up fighting Russia as well. Where are we going to get those supplies? We don't make them. Where are we going to get our oil? Saudi Arabia has engaged in a contract with Russia so that Russia can provide Saudi Arabia military support and military arms so that Saudi Arabia can sell Russia oil, or so that they can interact together. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a shift going on in the world, and we need to prepare for that. Yes, we need to prepare for food shortages because they will be coming, but we need to prepare for shortages of everything. And not only that, we need to prepare to defend ourselves against all of those people, Americans or not, ladies and gentlemen, that are going to come after your stuff because they are not preparing right now. They are living a life of normalcy, of cognitive dissonance, and they are not preparing, and they're going to need stuff that you have. So you're going to have to prepare to defend yourselves, your families, and your stuff in the future as well, no matter what country you live in, not only here in the United States. So what's going to happen getting closer to September or October? Someone asked me that in the live stream yesterday. What do I think is going to be going on around September, October? Well, I kind of answered it. I answered it in a way that was kind of generic. I said things are going to continue to get worse, incrementally worse. Things are going to get more expensive, all right? And there's going to be a lot more shortages than there are now. I believe that the government will eventually do some price controls, which will create even more shortages and even higher prices. All right, it'll do the opposite of what their intentions are. Price controls never work. Just take a look at history. They never work. So once things get to a point where we are paying so much for whatever it is that we need to live, we are going to stop spending, and it's happening now. We're going to stop spending on those things that we really don't need. So if you don't, today I'm going to go to the farmer's market, right? Just to have a little bit of fun with the family, and maybe I'll record that. That'll be fun. So I can have a little bit of fun with the family, go see what they have. And it's just a beautiful day outside at that. So today I'm going to go to the farmer's market. But if things get bad enough, people are not going to spend the $10 in gas that it takes them to go to the farmer's market and back home. They're not going to spend that. If things get bad enough, people are not going to go to restaurants and spend that $50, $60, $100 on a meal for them and their families because they need that money in order to just live. So what's going to happen? Businesses are going to start failing. They're going to start closing. Not just restaurants, not just farmers market, but all types of businesses. They're going to start failing. People are going to be getting laid off, and things are just going to spiral and get worse and worse. Inflation will continue to get worse because the government, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe they are done with stimulus. I believe that the government will come back out and try to give you more money to try to fix the problem that they created by doing the exact same thing that caused them to create that problem in the first place. So I believe that we will see stimulus in our future. And what do I say about that? I don't agree with it 100%. But you know what? If you have no choice, if it appears in your banking account, go ahead and use it and prep up and get those things that you know you're going to need. I'm going to need a set of tires here within the next 1.5 to 2 years. I'm going to need a new set of tires. Guess what I'm doing? I'm getting it now. I'm ordering them now because they have them right now. Specifically, winter tires is what I need. But I know that they have them right now because they have some leftovers from this last winter. So they'll be going on sale pretty soon because they want to get rid of them so they don't have to take room. So what am I doing? I'm going to go pick myself up a set of tires for my truck because I know I'm going to need it 1.5 to 2 years out. So why not get it now while I know that I can get it and it is at a lower price than what I believe it will be in a couple of years from now. The United States, ladies and gentlemen, produces what? What we produce depends on the imports that we can get from other countries. Think about that. Do we have the ability to produce everything that we need internally? Yes, we do. But for some reason, government doesn't think that we ought to take care of our own and produce for ourselves the things we need first before taking care of other countries. And that is something that we will have to bear. That is the blunt of what we will have to bear, is that the government takes care of other places and other people better than they take care of us. They are so busy trying to strip us of our liberties that they don't care how much we suffer. So it is up to you to go out there and make sure that you're prepped. That way, when the time comes that these things won't be available, because the time will come eventually, the time will come when things are just not available, that you'll be okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so check out China. Look at the position that China is in. They have about $1.1 trillion or so US dollars in reserves, or treasuries, right? Whatever you want to call it. Treasuries, bonds, they're dollars, they're just in a different form. They have about $1 trillion in reserve. And what do we have? What do we have in reserve of any other country? What do we have? Nothing, because we only use the dollar. So if we only use the dollar and other countries decide to stop accepting the dollar, then what do we have if we don't produce our own stuff? Think about that. If we do not produce our own things and all we have to trade with is dollars, what happens when the dollar is gone? I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. They're probably going to take us to war, okay? And with this administration, I believe that they will make decisions that will make us lose that war. Because you have to think, when was the last time that the United States was involved in a war that we actually won, that we were on the side of victory? Did we win the Korean War? I don't think so. And China was actually involved in that war. Did we win the Vietnamese War? I don't think we did. And of course, all of these wars weren't really wars. Yes, we send our young men and women to die for their country, supposedly, but they weren't really wars. All right, they were not declared war by Congress, which in itself should be a treasonous act, but I digress. So did we win the Vietnamese War? No. Did we win the Gulf War? Really? What did we get out of it? Nothing. Did we win the war from 2001 that just ended in Afghanistan and Iraq? Look at those two countries. Where are they? They're back to what they used to be before we went there. All we did was leave our men and women's lives behind and leave a lot of sorrow for those countries that we invaded, because that's actually what happened. We invaded those countries. And when I say we, ladies and gentlemen, all right, I know we have some new viewers here. I don't mean we the people. I mean government. All right, whenever I say we, or whenever I say the United States, it's the government, because they are the ones that make the decisions that affect you, that affect we the people. All right, they make the decisions that affect our lives, but they just don't have to live with the consequences of the decisions that they make on our behalf. They don't have to live with the consequences. We do. Do you think that they have to live with higher gas prices? Do you think they care about higher gas prices? Not one bit. You know why? Because at the same time that you are paying higher gas prices at the pump, at the same time that you're paying higher food prices at the supermarket, they are paying those same higher prices, but it is with your money that they've collected in the form of taxes that they're paying those higher taxes, higher food prices, and higher gas prices. It is with your money, ladies and gentlemen, that they've collected. So they don't care. All right? They will send your children to die for their mistakes. I was very surprised, and I know I'm just rambling on here, but we're just having a conversation. I'm not really talking at you, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, when I look into the camera, I'm looking at you and talking with you. I was really surprised about it. I think it's a congressman, and I forget his name, but he's the guy that wears that patch. I forget his name, but he used to be a Navy SEAL, I think. And I saw something where he said, I think it was, there was something on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but, I see it on other YouTube channels that talk about it. Something on Twitter about why are we supporting Ukraine with this package when they won't support the American people, right? Because you do know there was a bill introduced. I think it was like a $45 billion bill that was introduced so that it can help small businesses and farmers, and it was shot down. And it was shot down by both sides. Remember, there's only one side. It's our side and their side, government side. But it was shut down by both parties, all right, and the government. And someone asked, I think this is how it went. Somebody asked on Twitter, why are we supporting this other nation and not supporting our own farmers and small businesses? And this gentleman, the congressman, says something like, you don't understand. We have to support Ukraine, but never mentioned anything about us here in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, when these people get into office, they change. I don't know why they change, all right? When they first go in there, they're full of, they're full of vigor, right? Yes, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the United States. I want to make it better again. But then once they get in there, something changes, right? I don't know why it is. I don't know if they're threatened. I don't know if they're just corrupt by money, by deals, by book deals, whatever it is. But they change because power corrupts, ladies and gentlemen. Power definitely corrupts. So, it just goes to show that we are on our own. We are on our own. The dollar will eventually fail, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, the dollar will eventually fail. All right. So what I like to do, and it kills me to have dollars in the bank. It does, because I know that eventually the labor that I exhausted to get those dollars in the bank, that labor will be gone and will be stolen because those dollars will be gone. What I'm trying to say here is that we need to prepare, right? I think this is going to be one of those years that we will be talking about in decades to come. We will be talking about this time that we're going through right now because of the challenges that we're facing, not only with other nations, but with our own government as well. I mean, look at the things that have been going on lately. Do you really think that anyone cares about you? And when I say anyone in some kind of authority, government authority, do you really think that they care about you or your children or your family? Think about that. When you go to your pantry, when you open your cupboards and you only see 2 or 3 days worth of food, when you see that you only have a half-filled can of gasoline sitting in your garage or your shed or whatever, think about what's going to happen when you can't get those things anymore. Or when those things cost 10 times more than what they cost now. Do you really think that the government's going to be there to bail you out? And I can give you the answer to that right now. No, they won't. And even if they do offer you something, it'll be at your expense. And more than likely, that will be your liberty. Going back to how the United States really doesn't produce anything. Yes, we grow food. But where do we get our fertilizer? Yes, we grow food. But where do we get the parts and the machinery in order to go out there and farm, right? In mass, in a big scale. Where do we get those parts from? That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the behest of all of these other nations. I think last year our trade deficit with China was close to $400 billion. What does that mean? That means that we imported, just from China, we imported about $400 billion more worth of stuff than what we exported to them. So if we exported to them $100 billion worth of goods, we imported from them $500 billion worth of goods. I think that's what our deficit was with China alone, was close to $400 billion. So ask yourself again, if we do get into a conflict, how are we going to fight that war? We can't. We don't have what we need in order to fight the war. For goodness gracious, I read an article not too long ago that said that we are now low on munitions because we are sending our munitions overseas. We are sending our munitions overseas. How are we going to protect this country if it, for some reason, gets invaded, which I think would be a very big mistake on any country to try to invade us here, boots on ground. But if that happens, what are we going to do for munitions? And where do we get the metals and the supplies that we need, the product that we need in order to make those munitions? Those are the things that we need to be asking ourselves before we agree with going anywhere and claiming war on any other country. But what you have to prepare for yourselves, mostly, in my opinion, is, of course, prep up, get the preps, get everything that you're going to need for a good while, and also for the failure of the dollar, because the dollar is failing right now. As I speak, as I do this video, the dollar is failing right now. It's going to continue to fail until it is no longer valuable enough for other countries to use. So prepare accordingly.